Welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating field trip journal entry from an aquarist named Ang. If you love a good mystery, especially one about how commercial supply chains literally shape the animals in our local pet shops, well, you're definitely in the right place. Let's jump right into Ang's recent journal entry and see exactly what he discovered on what was supposed to be just a routine fish hunting expedition.
Okay, let's dive into this. So, picture the scene. Ang is out on a dedicated field trip, right? He's actively hunting for new fish species to stock a few outdoor ponds he maintains on his backyard balcony. You know, a totally typical pursuit for any aquarist looking for the absolute perfect fit for a specific setup. But right in the middle of this search, he comes across a group of young juvenile fish that immediately catches his eye. And, well, not exactly for a good reason. He spots this sudden anomaly. These fish, they just don't look quite right. It's like a giant puzzle that stops him dead in his tracks, and it forces him to ask a super intriguing question. Is this just a severely deformed batch of fish, or is there some hidden gem of a story behind their bizarre appearance?
To really put you in his shoes, let's look at his exact first-hand observation. Ang writes, "I stumbled upon a group of young juvenile fish that may seem to have a deformed body at first." That word right there, deformed, it instantly pulls us into the mystery, doesn't it? I mean, why would an entire group of juveniles share the exact same structural anomaly? What is actually going on with the physical makeup of these specific fish?
Well, after some careful identification and looking at mature specimens, Ang figures the whole thing out. Turns out these aren't just random sickly fish. They're actually peacock bass. Yeah, the super popular predatory cichlid. But the plot definitely thickens here. The specific fish Ang is staring at are actually farm-bred hybrids. To be exact, they're a cross between cichla-monoculus and cichla-ocellaris. Once he locked down the ID, it made sense. This unusually short body, it wasn't an accident or some sort of disease. It's actually a completely distinct, baked-in trait for the specific commercial hybrid species.
Now you might be wondering, how in the world did Ang so confidently figure out that these were farm-bred hybrids and not just natural specimens? Actually, scratch that. The answer wasn't just in the body shape. It was printed right there on the price tag. In the exotic pet trade, the economics usually tell the true story of an animal's origins. Ang noticed that the highly affordable price of these juveniles was a massive giveaway. A genuine, wild-caught fish of this caliber, absolutely no way it would be sitting in a local shop for a bargain bin price. That dirt-cheap cost was basically the genetic breadcrumb that led directly to their true identity.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy market dynamics at play here. Think about an authentic, wild-caught peacock bass for a second. Coming all the way from South America, they are seriously expensive to acquire because of heavy import duties and shipping costs. But they have that beautiful, natural, elongated body. Now contrast that with what Ang found, the farm-bred hybrid. These guys are mass-produced in commercial farms over in Southeast Asia, which means they completely bypass those massive import duties, making them highly affordable. But the trade-off for that absolute bargain price? It's that unusually short, kind of squished, deformed body shape. It's wild to think about how geography, taxation, and commercial farming can completely alter the actual physical fish you end up seeing at the store.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the absolutely incredible visual transformation these fish are destined for. Right now, in their juvenile state, Ang describes them as having incredibly dull looks, like they really aren't much to look at. But they're basically going through an intense ugly duckling phase. According to his research, once these fish mature, they completely shed that dull vibe. They develop these rich, full colors and incredibly striking vertical bars all across their bodies. They literally transform into a stunning centerpiece fish that demands attention.
So, the crucial point is, what did Ang actually decide to do? Despite the fact that he's a huge fan of keeping cichlids, even breeding them, he walked away. He left them right there in the store. Why? Well, first off, that dull juvenile appearance just didn't hook him in the moment. But the second reason? That's the ultimate reality check of fish keeping, tank size. Remember, these are large, predatory cichlids. Ang realized he simply didn't have the tank capacity to house a massive fish once it reached that fully matured, colorful state. It's such a relatable struggle, right? Wanting the super cool, exotic peck, but having the painful self-awareness to realize you don't exactly have the real estate for a giant apex predator on your backyard balcony. It's a great find, as Ang noted in his journal, but for sure, not one for keeping.
Which brings us to a final, really important takeaway from Ang's field trip. The commercial pet trade makes these fascinating, hybrid animals incredibly affordable and accessible to pretty much anyone. But it begs the question, just because you can afford the cheap price tag on a juvenile, does that mean you should actually bring it home? When it comes to exotic pets, is an affordable price tag ever worth forcing an animal into an unsuitable habitat down the line? It's a pretty profound question about responsible pet ownership, one that Ang clearly understands, and it's absolutely one we should all be asking ourselves the next time we're tempted by a bargain at the local pet shop. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this leaves you eager to look a little closer and think more deeply about the hidden stories behind the glass of your local aquarium store. Catch you next time.